Good evening and welcome to Nice Drop Report. You will realise that Matt and I are in the same location tonight. If you're watching on YouTube, Robbie's still in Sydney. Sorry, mate. How you going, Robbie? Over there, alone?
I'm fine. I'm just on my own. I'm very, FOMO seeing you two in a room together. I'm just here by myself.
I'm excited that Matt and I are in the room together. We actually aren't seen that often together in real life, are we?
No, but it's been quite a bit though. We attended the
more this year than usually. But...
Yeah, we attended the All Whites game together, didn't we? So it's twice in a week.
We did. We went to the All Whites game, and probably a good place to start off. The All Whites game was got the result we wanted, but we were in the stadium, Rob, 0-0 half time. It was a bit of a. I don't know. How did we all feel about that first half?
Nervous. Look, we battered them, absolutely battered them, and they somehow defended. They kept a clean sheet. I think there were at least 4 or 5, half a dozen goal line clearances. So frustrating, but at the same time, like the wall was going to break at some point. So I wasn't overly worried, but you kind of know the longer those kind of games go on, it's frustration, and Jesus, it's going to be one of those nights where it doesn't happen. But yeah, I wasn't overly worried.
Matthew?
Yeah, I think the thing that got me was the because we attended the crowd. You could really tell it. I think they'd all turned up thinking that it was going to be like it should be. They'd beaten Fiji.
Like the Fiji game.
Yeah, I think they were expecting there to be at least 2 or 3-0 by half time, and yeah, I think when the half-time whistle, there was a lot of, even after about 20, 30 minutes, there was a lot of murmurings and, off the line, cleared off the line, goalkeeper makes a good save. But even then, even after half-time, it took them another good, 10, 15 minutes? I think they scored on the hour, didn't they? So
yeah.
Even that 15 minutes was pretty nervy, I think, for the crowd. So, yeah.
I think New Caledonia, what I took from it is they really weren't out of their depth. It wasn't like the Fiji game at all, as you just said. And wow, they were playing, and they weren't sitting deep. They weren't defending for their lives. There was none of that. They were out there to win the game, and we were sitting there thinking to ourselves, I wonder how many ex-French lads are there in this team, because they look strong and it's had a chance at half time.
Yeah, well, we joked that we were looking at New Caledonia thinking, they should be steamrolled, and then we thought, hang on a minute, they've got that French connection. Do we ever look at it and see that they've got a guy from PSG and they've got a guy from Lyon and a guy from Lille? It's like, hang on a minute, they're not exactly who they thought they would be. But no, they did hold their own. They didn't look out of place.
Yeah,
really solid. They rode their luck a bit at the beginning, but yeah.
And look, you can't discount the fact that they're playing for a spot at the World Cup. You take that desperation into a game, anything's going to happen. But New Zealand had so much more quality on the night. So, and look, New Caledonia still have a chance to get through. They have to go into a playoff tournament now later in the year. So
they do, right? Yeah. Well, they'll have the same sort of playoff that New Zealand usually had against quite a decent team. Yeah. So the second half, we were sitting there, of course, going, where's the Auckland FC boys? I mean, that was I think it was a weird one, because there's obviously a lot of people in that ground where we were that you go and see Auckland FC a lot. And I think like us at the time, because I hadn't put hardly any research into who was in the All Whites team, it was like, well, why aren't these players there? Because they're used to playing together. They're used to playing in Auckland. They haven't got to travel together. And so we're going to go into that a little bit in this podcast about who these other All Whites players are and why they're in the team, and kind of why the Auckland FC guys are on the bench. But they did bring on Francis De Vries came on, and he did make a difference.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he's taken that form in from the season, and we've spoken about the quality of his delivery, and he was directly involved with one, built up to the second. He's such a weapon to have, in any situation. He made such a great impact coming on. That's exactly what you want. I mean, you look at the starting lineup. I know you guys talking about the Auckland boys and the Phoenix players as well. But when you look at that starting 11, that's hard to break into. Yeah. Quality aside, De Vries is going up against a Serie A player in Libby Kakache. They can potentially play together in a starting lineup, but
I thought about that. Yeah,
that's a tough team to break into, to be fair.
Yeah. You're right. There are some. Yeah, it'll come up in a moment. Oh, there it is.
Only one player in the starting lineup from the A League.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's the one that jumped out to me. I thought I looked at De Vries and I thought I would look at putting De Vries in the starting 11. But you're right. When you look at who was playing left back, the 24-year-old that plays at Empoli. That's pretty impressive. But hey, he came on and he did. There was nothing. Thing is, when you compare what was happening before De Vries came on and after De Vries came on, there was just nothing coming from that left hand side. The whole of the all white team, everything that was anything of any good was coming from the right. It's as if the whole team just constantly just kept shifting over that way. I don't know if Liberato is that type of player who's more inverted. He comes in more, but that's what De Vries will do. De Vries, he pulls the pitch. He'll pull people that way. He'll take the ball, he'll deliver the ball, he'll look to pass it down. So I just, I mean, there was a lot more happening on the left-hand side than there was in the first half. That's what I was most impressed with. Came on. Yeah, it was very good.
He did make a difference. He did one of those textbook corners that he takes, and he swings them and he puts it right on the guy's head. Well, I mean, I did an interview today with Francis and talked to him a little bit about that. And it's quite a methodical answer, actually, when I asked him how he does it. Yeah. It's like...
Hey, we're all out there waiting for this.
Yeah.
I haven't even heard this interview, so I can't wait.
We'll hear it very, very shortly. So it was good to talk to Francis. But yeah, it was great to get the result 3-0 in the end. Chris Wood. It was kind of weird. Like Chris Wood got his injury, and the whole because the whole build up had been. I walked into the stadium and there was about five ladies, and they all had a massive Chris Wood cardboard cutout thing.
Yeah,
its face.
Yeah, they're good those.
And they're all shouting, "Touch Wood, come and touch Wood, touch Wood."
So mature.
And I went over and I touched Wood.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. that alongside seeing there.
Yeah. Oh, and I saw Blair from the port, of course. Never go out.
He was knocking around.
Never go out. Never go out and don't see him. He's everywhere. He's everywhere I go. It was off to the active supporter area down the other end. I think we were in the active supporter area this week.
The
group there down there.
But yeah, do we think the All Whites? I mean, there's 15 months to go, I guess, to the World Cup. Quite a different World Cup as well. There's going to be a lot of teams in this World Cup. I'm trying to figure out: do they have more groups, and then it'll be the old third placed teams sneak through, right?
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah,
it's going to go on forever, isn't it? It's just going to go on for so long.
I don't mind. I like a big World Cup. It's exciting to have New Zealand there, and hopefully for us, England will be there as well. You never know.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and Australia, throw them in there as well.
Did they get the result they needed? Beat China 2-0 or something?
2 wins from 2. So Japan's already qualified, so we don't know what they're going to bring out. So they've already made it. Saudi Arabia is the only kind of smoky in there, but if Australia beats Japan, they're safe. Even if it's just a draw against Japan, they're pretty much guaranteed second spot and they're in. So it'll be interesting. Interesting to see how it all kind of pans out with the format and stuff. And actually, I wanted to ask you, lads, because I heard this debate earlier today. Actually, I was listening to something else, and the guy was going off about it's having more teams has robbed us of having nights like Bahrain 2009 because we don't have to fight for that spot. We don't have to see that quality kind of desperation playoff. Now we've just kind of got this guaranteed spot. Does that make it better or worse for you guys? For me, it's I'd rather just be there.
Yeah,
we might not have those nights, but it'll take it away from us. But for the likes of New Caledonia, it offers them those chances to have those kind of historic nights.
You never know. Yeah, New Caledonia could go and get a crazy result.
Yeah, that's right.
How awesome would that be?
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't think All Whites supporters are going to worry about not having like nights like the Peru game and was it Costa Rica they've lost to Peru?
Yeah.
Colombia or someone.
I mean, I think that I was actually speaking to somebody just a moment ago when I was going to pick up my daughter. I think he mentioned just the difference that the 2010 qualification made for the whole, for the money that you earn to qualify for the World Cup. I think I heard somewhere or read somewhere that the money that was earned or came their way from going into the 2010 World Cup is just about running out. They're just seeing the end of that. So the fact they've just qualified for another World Cup is going to give that that injection of cash. So I think New Zealand football was going to be stuck. You want to get to that next place, and I think them qualifying for the 2026 World Cup is going to it's going to let them go to that next step. It's going to be it's the grassroots kind of stuff. The money that's going to be seen there. So you get more players that are playing in Europe or whatever. It's going to benefit everybody in the.
I agree. I'd rather just us, and it'll be a bigger windfall as well, I think, with this expanded World Cup and all that alleged Saudi money that's coming that FIFA's chasing. But I guess the crux of his argument was it just doesn't feel earned anymore. But
we have that with
because you don't go through that struggle. But
We have that with the England football. It's funny you should admit. This actually crossed my mind when England were playing their second game. I think it was against Latvia. So they'd beaten Albania, and then Latvia was the second game. And I am just about old enough to remember how much of a struggle it used to be for England to make it to a World Cup.
They didn't go to the '94 World Cup.
Exactly.
They didn't go to a Euros.
It was always in the balance, wasn't it? I mean, we had that.
You think Italy as well recently? They haven't been a couple. They're in danger of missing out.
But then we had that situation where England they got that draw in Italy that got them to
they jammed it. 98, they jammed it.
How difficult
it always come down to the last one game or two games.
We used to find it quite difficult, and now the England team just breezes through the qualifying. So we just don't get that. There's almost no jeopardy anymore. We just kind of almost just expect to see England at the
we're going to see New Zealand at every World Cup in the history of football, presumably. I mean, unless they slip up at some point against one of the teams from the islands,
which has happened in the past. It's very, very rare, but it's one of those you can't. For New Zealand, you can't afford to slip up now. You don't want to be known as the team that didn't make the World Cup from Oceania.
No,
that's right. There's maybe a bit of pressure there. But
so the other thing, we obviously are at Eden Park. I don't think I've watched a football match at Eden Park before. I've watched plenty of rugby games.
The Women's World Cup?
Oh, the Women's World Cup. Yeah. I was in a different bit of the stadium, so my mind was different. But
I'm going to get Bonnie Jansen back to stand up for women's rights here.
Bonnie back here.
I was almost worried for a second. I was like, I thought I went with you.
Yeah, was that you that was with me?
Who the hell was I with?
I remember it was a different time though, because I was dressed as a Viking for one of the games. I remember we were watching Sweden. Did you Viking game?
No, I think
my girls were desperate to be on the Jumbotron on the big screen, and they made me dressed as a Viking.
You were
you were coerced. Okay,
I think it was Sweden playing. But anyway, so being in the stadium was interesting because we're having this sort of ongoing debate about what happens for a grand final for Auckland FC, and I actually went on to another podcast, the Brisbane Football Review, ahead of obviously the Brisbane game. We'll get on to that. And one of the questions I was asked was, what do the fan base want? Where do they want the final to be? Because there is this whole thing of the capacity. I don't know. It was kind of half full, wasn't it? Because it wasn't a full stadium.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But it felt different to Mount Smart. It was the atmosphere at Mount Smart's been phenomenal this season.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I've only been to a few games at Mount Smart Stadium, but when the crowd go in, you can. Again, it just the only thing in its defence was that we were talking about that international games just have a weird vibe to them, don't they? It's just no song.
It's different.
It's just different, and
there's no routine.
No,
whereas a football club is a routine. You go every Saturday or every other Saturday, and you know the same people, and you sit in the same place.
I'm just
sometimes.
Thinking, the port being at that one end. There's a lot of them in there. The crowd all together at Eden Park. I think you get a different vibe. Hopefully, I think you would.
But we'll see. Anyway, it's a good, like I said to the guy that was interviewing me, Adam we had him on the podcast earlier in the year. I said it's a good problem to have if Auckland FC get there. But we'll get into that a little bit later. We are going to listen to the interview I did earlier with Francis De Vries now. So sit back and listen to hopefully what is a good interview, and then we'll have a little chat off the back of it. All right, as you can see, Francis De Vries is joining me now on the podcast. Thank you very much for joining Nice Chocolate Port. How are you, Francis?
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's we've wanted to have you on for a while because myself and the other boys that do the poddy, obviously we've watched the games all season and been right behind Auckland FC, and you're a kind of really interesting story. You've and I've watched a couple of interviews earlier today about your career. It's been a real up and downer. Obviously having an up. What sort of week have you had, Francis? Obviously a massive week, I would say.
Yeah, it's been surreal. You've mentioned my story there, and working a long time in a lot of different places, not playing in front of a lot of people and having to be intrinsically motivated a lot of the time. It's pretty special to share those moments, that hard work with people when the occasion does come around. And Monday night was pretty special. I think it's the combination of a lot of things that have happened over the last 9 months. And I guess we can get into that as well if we want to talk a little bit about Auckland FC's season so far.
We will do. I mean, we should start with Monday. New Caledonia, you've obviously you recently sort of come into the All Whites. Well, let's just start with Monday night. Obviously, a huge game, the biggest in this country's, for 15 years, if we'd win, of course. And you're named on the bench for the game. How did you feel about that to start with?
Good. I knew clearly what my role was within the All Whites. I know Libby is the number one left back, as he should be, with the level that he is performing at overseas. And so I was there in the camp, and understanding of my role was to help the team in any way possible. And when you're on the bench, that helping is a little bit different. You don't quite see it as much when you're a spectator, but behind the scenes, in the trainings and those kind of things, you prepare as best you can and you help the starting 11. And then when or if you get your opportunity to come in, then it's up to you to be both mentally and physically sharp when you come on.
And you did get your opportunity. Halftime comes around, it's 0-0. What was your feeling when you were given the nod? Right, get stripped, you're on, lad.
It was good because I didn't get too much notice. Like, obviously they're having the team talk in the changing room, but all of us subs are out on the field, kicking a ball around, doing a few runs, getting warmed up. So Goffey, the keeper and set piece coach, came out a couple minutes before the end of half time and just said, "Hey mate, you and Eli are coming on. We want you to be a little bit more direct, get the ball into the box more, inject some more speed into the game." And that was great, short and sharp and easy, and then boom, straight into it.
Yeah, you did seem to get straight into the game, and your sort of trademark has become, set pieces, but also crossing. And we noticed you were getting forward, and then of course you got to take the corner about 60th minute, I think, and the deadlock was broken. What sort of feeling was that for you to be on the assist?
Yeah, grateful more than anything, I think, because you saw the first half, we had 3-4 similar chances from corners, and we had a couple of great goal line clearances. I think we had the crossbar, so you could feel it was coming. When I went over to take the corner, it's just about convincing yourself to do the same as you always do. You've seen it with Auckland FC in most games. I try and be as consistent as possible with where I place the ball in the box, and that includes, being consistent in what you say to yourself in your own head before you kick it, the kind of run up you do, the kind of areas you look at before you kick the ball. So at the end of the day, it was a culmination of a lot of the same processes that we work on every single week. And I guess that's what gives you the confidence that you can strike the ball in there, as I did.
Yeah, and the game sort of like went from there, really. I think you were like a non-assist, but you got up on the left-hand corner and cut it back, Barbarousis, and then in for the assist for the second goal, which was crucial as well. So you're right in the thick of it that second half.
Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What's the feeling towards the Wellington Phoenix on this podcast?
Look, we're I would say we're neutral, but we're Auckland FC podcast, of course. Yeah. I mean, I've got no beef with any of the Wellington players. I mean, just pleased to see you guys get together and get the result in the end, to be honest.
No, it's great. I know. Just giving out. I was just asking because got a bit of a bromance going with Costa on the tour. Assisted him in the first match. Gave him the pass in the second one where he set Eli up. But I just wanted to mostly also speak quickly for him. What a moment for him. 35 years old, has plugged away at a really high level for a long time, and to come on and score and then assist as well, like he did. Eli scored off the bench too, so you can really see the strength that the team is showing in different areas.
Yeah, and you guys showed a bit of resolve, definitely. Chris Wood's obviously the superstar at the moment of this team. I think you'd agree. And the poor boy goes off with an injury, and it's kind of like all the pre-match talk was about, Woody sorting it all out, and then you guys had to do it without him. Did that sort of change the mentality of the guys left on the pitch?
I think a little bit. Of course, when one of your most important or the most important player gets injured in a game, then there's a lot of adapting that you have to do. I think we're lucky that we have a team full of experience. You can see most of the boys have over 20 caps already for New Zealand, even if they're a little bit younger. So being adaptable in those situations comes with experience. And, that was exemplified by Costa coming on and doing the job at striker, which I don't think he's played for a while for New Zealand. So, it was great to see the team pull through in that situation, but obviously gutted for Chris and, really unfortunate on that occasion for something like that to happen.
Yeah. And you and the boys, you closed it out. For you personally, what did it feel like at the final whistle? I mean, you're in your early 30s now. We're going to get a little bit into your career. You've kind of come from nowhere. And here you are in a team that's just qualified for the Football World Cup.
Mate, I'm only, 5 months into my 30s? Take it easy.
It's early 30s, isn't it?
Nah, it's all good. Yeah, mate, it's a surreal feeling, I guess we'll get into the motivation behind it a little bit later on when we talk about my journey. There's some things I'd like to touch on, but for the moment, it was so cool. I mean, once the game's finished, you can really look up and look into the stands and take in the emotion of people. And when you're playing, you don't often have license to do that because all your attention's wrapped up in what you're doing, following team tactics and obviously sometimes trying to catch your breath and then making the right decision on the ball and those kind of things. So once the game was done, to look around and to see the outpouring of joy on people's faces, that was special.
That's great. And your family must be super proud.
Yeah, they're stoked. Mum was there, so that was really cool. Gave her a big hug after the game. She gave me a chocolate milk, so she was like, go recover. I know you got another game coming up soon, so that was pretty cool.
That's great. Yeah, you guys must be on cloud nine. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about back to the start from you, Francis. I've schooled up on my homework on your career as much as I can, but why don't you tell me in your own words? Like you leave New Zealand very young, right? And you head off to Switzerland. Pick it up from there. What happens when you sort of start your big adventure into football?
Yeah, that's a great place to start. And I'd just like to touch upon some people who helped me in that journey. Like obviously my mum was a massive one. She's Swiss and she was the one that was taking me to trainings, and Dad was the one who was my youth coach, so without them, I wouldn't have even got to that stage. There are a couple of great coaches I had when I was younger. Rob Sherman ran an academy, actually, the Fiji coach. So he was a great influence on me, and a man called Fred Simpson from Kashmir Wanderers. So these guys helped me believe in myself when I was younger. And you might not know it, but my youth football journey kind of parallels my adult football journey. And I didn't often make the academy or the rep team, or I was making the B team of the regional side. So getting used to dealing with disappointments, and uncomfortable as they were, I think was crucial when I went over to Switzerland, because as I went over there, I realized, Jesus, there are so many good players here, we're so sheltered in New Zealand. Like you've probably seen different parts of the world, but I was there for 6 months with their under-19s team, and I couldn't get a kick basically. Played a couple of games, but was just way off it, like technique, physically, tactically. I learned so much, but as a 17-year-old, it's quite damaging for your ego and who you think you are and what you think you can become. So yeah, that was a really, really powerful learning experience going over there.
And so you were sort of playing with a lot of Swiss youth players. You didn't turn pro over there, my understanding, but then you sort of went over to the United States. Is that kind of where it went for you?
Yeah, for sure. We're really lucky in our academy. They gave us these pathways, and they showed us that, look, you could come through a youth academy, or you could stay in New Zealand and play in the National League back then, or you could go to America and get a scholarship and get an education on the side while playing football. And that's what I thought the best pathway was at that stage. I knew I wasn't good enough to make it into the professional level yet. So I knew I had another 4 years, and also a great opportunity to, get something more than just football out of the journey, which I think is really important. Like, obviously you meet a lot of great people, you make friends, and you have relationships that will hopefully last beyond football. But getting an education was something that my parents were big on as well. So having the opportunity to do that was a bit of a no-brainer at that stage. So I spent 4 years over in the university system in America, which ended up with me being drafted to Vancouver. And I, again, didn't make the MLS team. I was signed for their reserve team in the USL and played 1 season there before coming back to New Zealand. And if you'd like to talk about that, we can.
Yeah, but I'm just interested in the draft situation, because when we think of players being drafted, we're always thinking about basketballers and American footballers. But it works the same way with football or soccer, as they call it over there. I see you were number 29 pick. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was close. One day off my birthday, mate. Whoever was 28 should have picked me. But it was a weird situation because in college, like, you only play in your isolated area, you only play the schools that are local to you. And then at the end of it, they somehow decide, okay, here are 70 players that we think have potential to be pros. They invite them to this combine. You're together for a week. You play 3 games. You do some physical testing. And then at the end of it, you go to the draft and you have no clue.
You can end up anywhere in the region, anywhere in the States or Canada. Yeah, wow.
Exactly. You don't even know if you're going to get picked, to be honest. Like, a few boys knew, the ones that went
really
right at the start, they had already signed contracts with the MLS. But most of us boys sitting in there, when you get picked, you essentially go on trial to the club that picks you. The NBA and the NFL, and there's all these multi-million-dollar contracts and all that, and it's this big buzz, and at least at the top rounds. But in football, it's a lot smaller than that, and it's weird. Like, it's a bit of a mix. I think it was really cool because Dad was really proud, and I remember he told me how he watched it, and that was pretty emotional. But going to Vancouver, you were still on trial, so you still hadn't achieved the goal of being a professional footballer. It was like going to preseason in a new situation.
Yeah, and so you didn't go pro in America. You come back to Canterbury United, back to New Zealand about 2017. Is that right?
Yeah. So I did spend 1 season with the Whitecaps second team, which was classified professional at the time.
Okay.
And so that was like the culmination of, I guess, achieving a big outcome goal that I'd had for a while. But the season didn't go great. I played decent at the start, but then tailed off towards the end of the year and got injured, and a bunch of different things happened, but I lost a lot of confidence in myself. And it was weird. Like, you've spent all this time thinking that professional football is something, and you have this totally different experience. So I was a bit confused as to where I wanted to go with football after that. And luckily there was a really good group of lads at Canterbury United. Came back to New Zealand, was working and coaching on the side, and then playing mostly for enjoyment's sake. Of course, I still had aspirations, but these guys made the team spirit so good that I said, okay, I want to keep playing football. I love the environment and so on, and played, I think, 3/4 of the National League season with them.
Yeah, and then you back over to go over to Europe, Sweden. Tell us about Sweden. This is a big part of the journey, right?
Yeah. This is where all the funny stories start. So honestly, mate, like I finished playing for Canterbury in April, which is a bit of a dead zone. Like, there's no transfer window open. So I was almost going to an NPL club in Melbourne, but that fell through last minute. So I kind of didn't have anything on the table. And one of my friends knew an agent in Sweden. He said, why don't you come and play for this amateur team? My dad's the president. We'll sort you out with a place to live and 3 meals a day, and I'll get you some trials with some pro or semi-pro clubs in the summer. So yeah, I just said, why not? Like, I'm 23. It's getting to the stage where I need to decide whether I want to keep playing football or not. And one of my goals was to play professional in Europe. So,
but this was in the seventh flight of Swedish football, the original club.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I didn't know too much about it. I just showed up and ended up being this town of, I think, just barely 2,000 people. I was living in a hostel, walking to training. But first session, I think like 12 of 25 boys showed up, because it was kind of what it's like, show up if you want to, have a kick around, get fit. But hey, the boys were great. They welcomed me. There were some funny traditions and stuff. There was a swamp behind the training ground, so they threw me in that as a joke, but all in good nature, So it's just like, sometimes you shake your head and you think, how do I end up here, But, it was mad experience. And eventually I had some trials in the summer. It was 3 months I was at this amateur club. So really just trying to convince myself every day, this is training camp. These are your goals. This is the actions you need to take each day to get towards that. So it was a lot of motivation from just myself, because obviously no one else there was really playing for those reasons. And then going through the trial process in Europe was interesting as well. Lots of humming and ahhing. And when a team eventually decided to sign me, the director of football was actually away on holiday, so they couldn't put the contract in front of me that day. And it was like transfer window was closing, and it was just mental. So I just remember realizing that it's just football is just a mad world. People are just scrambling everywhere, and in the end, it worked out for me. After this half a season with knee shipping, the first team I signed with a team called Varnamo, and it was real crossroads there, because I had the choice to come back to New Zealand in that period, to go and play for Team Wellington at the time and go to a Club World Cup, and all of that. And I chose to stay there with no guarantees. I was still on trial with Varnamo. If it didn't work out, then I basically had nowhere to live the week after my trial. So it was, it was one of those situations. Yeah, it was. I'm sure it might have worked out, but at the end of the day, Varnamo liked what they saw. They signed me. I ended up with a really good coach. His name's Jonas Town, and he molded the team into something that was truly special. I mean, that's where the upward journey began. I was 25 at the time, I think, and then we started to go up the divisions in Sweden.
So multiple promotions from the third to the top flight of Swedish football, right? In that little
correct. Yeah, we started in the third league and came seventh, I think, in my first year, and then won it the year after, and then straight up to the second league. Tipped to come last, actually, but we won that as well. And then played in the highest level. So that was good. It was like a progression through the levels, so you could see everything. First season, maybe 150 fans at the stadium each game, no facilities, freezing all the time. I was working on the side too in a factory, so I was putting in a shift 7 till 1, and then biking to training after that, and then go home and it'd be dark and do the same thing the next day. So
what was the work that you were doing?
I was in a zinc factory, so they were a sponsor of the club. That's how I got the job. But basically shift work, hanging stuff up, putting them through big machines, packing them away, that kind of thing.
Wow. It's like a Roy of the Rovers story, your one. Have you heard of Roy of the Rovers?
No, I haven't.
From nothing it's basically your story. It goes from nothing to to the World Cup, if you like, or to the grand final kind of thing. So you're over there in Sweden, and things are looking good for you. I read that there was a sort of chance of moving on from this top flight Swedish clubs, few clubs interested, and then you have one of the troughs of your career, right, with the injury.
Correct. I think it was just after qualifying where we lost to Costa Rica, so the last round of qualifiers.
Right, the last round,
Yeah, and I remember my body was really overloaded. We had those qualifiers while it was summer break in Sweden. And then I came straight back into training and games, and we used to train really, really hard over there. So I should have taken some time off looking back on it. But of course, you feel like you just need to keep pushing all the time. And it's one of the lessons I learned coming back here. But yeah, we were in a training game, 11v11. It was a double session, so it was in the afternoon. And so I moved wrong for a ball, and the guy hit me on the outside of my knee, and it just collapsed, and the ACL was gone. It was a bit of a weird one, because first when they tested it on the field, the physio, it had all locked up. So he said, it looks all right. It's probably a strain. You just need to get a scan. And then 2 days later, I got the scan, and I still remember the doctor calling me. I was standing on my balcony, and the first thing he says is, "I'm so sorry." And so, you've torn your ACL. You're done for the year. And it's a weird process. It's a small period of time where you refuse to accept it. You say, "No, it's not real." It's, and then, obviously the ramifications sink in. I had 6 months left on my deal. I was in the process of probably leaving Varnamo, and if not in that transfer window, in the next one, with what you mentioned before. And so all of that the rug gets pulled out under you. You're damaged goods. No one's going to take you, even if you've played a couple of good seasons. You're essentially a liability for them when you come in. So the choice was made between me and my partner Lisa to come back to New Zealand and start a new life here.
And it's just to pick up on what you said. It's there's a lot of pressure to keep carrying on as a footballer. You said, it's a very short career, isn't it? Really, like it's sort of like 10 to 15 years if you're lucky. You were at that stage where you were sort of on the up, and you're saying you might have rushed yourself back to training too quickly, right?
Definitely, and definitely just always wanting more attitude. Like I always wanted the next thing, because I was finally tasting some of those external rewards that was like exciting. We're playing in big stadiums, and that every week was a chance to play against top players, and I felt like I need to keep proving myself every week. So in some ways that attitude is helpful in sustaining you when you need to have that extra push to make the extra effort, to train more, to be better, to bounce back from mistakes. But in some ways it can be a really negative thing too. It can lead to you taking unnecessary risks or burning out in the way that I did.
And so for you, the injury comes. You had a partner, and you decided to move back to New Zealand, right? But not obviously for the Auckland FC. There was a spell before that, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was a really conscious choice of us that, this is not going to be good for my football career, but we have these other areas of our lives that we think are really important, and one of them was, obviously coming and moving into a place that we could see our future being in a different group of friends, a different environment. So yeah, we came back and I started playing for Eastern Suburbs. Again, both me and my partner, regular Kiwis working, doing all that kind of thing.
Just the call of home after the OE, was it pretty much?
Yeah, it was 5 years away, so I think it was long enough. Mate, I can tell you're not from NZ, are you?
No, I've been here 18 years, so I've come the other way.
Okay, cool.
I'm here.
I understand. Yeah, and you probably see it too. Like there's some things about New Zealand that are so beautiful that you can't really get anywhere else. So
can't replicate.
Yeah, that's what attracted us to come. It was a hard road because obviously you're coming back into amateur football. Lisa's from Sweden, so all the visa things, all the work things, car rent, all this stuff, like that. We're building a relationship together and doing all these things together with no help really from the outside. So it was great, in terms of putting everything in perspective and how hard a lot of people have it. And it definitely makes you grateful once you're gone through it together and you still have a really good.
So did you just move back to here and just look for a game, or did you, because you ended up at Eastern Bays, right?
Yeah. So I knew I was coming back to Eastern Suburbs because
Eastern Suburbs.
Simon Hilton, the chairman and director, was with the All Whites. So that was like kind of the connection there. And then, but yeah, once I got back, I was essentially looking for a job and all of that. So yeah, starting from scratch again.
And so how long did you play at Eastern Bays before the Auckland FC offer came along?
I was for a year and a half. So I joined right at the back end of preseason. I was just coming back from my ACL and then played a full season with the National League at the end of it, and then half of the season last year before I went to AFC.
And the approach from Auckland FC, how did that come, and how quickly did you say yes?
It came, I think, relatively early on. Like I don't know their timeline, so I can't really comment on that. But it was earlier.
You're one of the first signings, I think they said.
Yeah. So I mean, it was probably because I said yes straight away. Like obviously I wanted to play professional again, and this was the place that had the best opportunity for me at the time. I think it worked out perfectly for myself personally. I feel very lucky that Auckland FC was started, and that I know how difficult these things are to get off the ground. So also in this time of my career, it's given me, these beautiful memories that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah, well, let's talk a bit about Auckland FC. I mean, it has been an amazing experience, I think, for I can tell from the players and the club and everyone involved in the club, but also football fans here in Auckland. I mean, I'm in that group of football fans who we didn't, I'm a Spurs fan back in England for my sins, and that will never change. But all of us have been like just waiting. Never change. And so the Auckland FC thing has been really nice because it's like a breath of fresh air for football. Everything's been positive so far. We've had a stellar summer in terms of weather. All the games seem to be hot and sunny, and the weekends have been amazing experiences for everybody involved. What's it been like on the inside for you to be part of this, Francis?
I think as a player, you always have a little bit more of a limited view on things because you don't notice as much as you're noticing. When you're there, you focus on your role within the team. You have a schedule each week, so you know kind of what you're doing, and things go quickly, but I would say it's great. Like when we show up 9 o'clock most mornings, it's great to see all the boys, there's a great chemistry and connection within the locker room. So that's super enjoyable. I guess that's all you can really ask for in any work environment, that you enjoy the people you work with. And when I walk out on the field and look at the players that are there around me, or the training field and the whole squad, I look at them and I think, yeah, this is a good spot.
And has that contributed to the success? Would you say that? I mean, I know you were mates with quite a few of the players before you even sort of started with the Auckland FC, right?
Yeah, I was stoked in preseason because obviously I was there earlier, and then 1 week, Nando's coming back, Logan's coming back, So it felt like, yeah, another mate's coming. It was so good. But yeah, we, obviously, yeah. Sorry, I forgot the main part of the chemistry.
Just really the chemistry of the players and the fact that you've had all these old mates have joined, and that's kind of it was brand new. It could have gone so badly wrong, but the gel was there, seemed to be there right from the off.
Yeah, definitely. Like the boys in the team get along really well. I think there's a great range of personalities in the team, and I think almost all of the players have been through some significant hardships in their career. Obviously, we've spent 10, 15 minutes talking about mine, but you even look at the players that we got from overseas, Luis Vestade, Jake Brimmer, boys like this have been through some really tough times in their careers as well. So everyone understands the meaning of what we're doing and how hard we have to work to get there, and the buy-in's there, the connection's there, and that has led to good things.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about your game. I mean, we pull these games apart on the podcast, Francis, just for your knowledge. We're just a bunch of old guys who like football, right? But one of the things that always comes up, and my podcast mate Matt, who's a co-host, he thinks you're his favorite player. He's an old man, but you're his favorite. You're his favorite player, and it's all about your crossing, and that's become a real feature of the team. Your ability to dig out crosses. Obviously set pieces from corners and free kicks. You're very, very good at those as well. But the crossing in open play, has that always been a big feature of your game? Is that would you say that's your best bit?
Yeah, it hasn't always been a feature of my game. I'll just premise it with, of course, the crossing looks nice. It's what's on the highlights. It's the same thing as when Guillermo scores a great goal, or Max scores a header, or someone else, Logan, scores at the back post. You see those moments, but all the small things leading up to it need to stick as well. So obviously there's all the little processes have gone right. Midfielders have completed their passes, defenders have won the ball. So I'd say yes, like it is an important part of my game. Although I would say if you look at all the actions that I do on the field, I only do it a very small percentage of my actions. So it does, I understand it stands out because that's what comes in the highlights. But in terms of it being like the major part of my game, I would say it's not, because I'm doing other actions a lot more, keeping the ball, making tackles, covering space, all of these things. So when I do get to get up and cross the ball, it's a bit of a release. It's an enjoyable moment, and I really try and back myself and make it count every time I get there.
Said like a true pro. Well, Matt's actually, and you'll like this, he's likened your crossing to David Beckham's. He said this to me at the All Whites the other night.
That's extremely kind of him. Yeah, you have to say thank you to him. But I also say thank you to some of the coaches that helped me with that, because for a long time I played centre back, or I played left back, but I didn't go forward much. And it was, I hadn't really mentioned it, but when I was in Sweden, that's more the second, third season, I became more a full-time left back. And that's where coaches like Jonas and stuff really started to drag that out of me, to give me the physical capabilities to get up and down the line. So I got in those positions, to give me the confidence to back myself, to whip it in with speed. things like that. So it's a process of a long time of a lot of different things.
Yeah. You seem to be able to to cross it with a man stood in front of you. You don't have to beat the man. That's what we've noticed. You're able to whip it. Like almost just. You don't have to get right past your defender to get your cross in, which is a great skill.
Yeah, because I got no
so
place,
well
mate.
Yeah. Well, I thought that might be it. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like, everyone has their own style. You see a lot of boys in our team are very good at beating a player one-on-one and then crossing it. I wouldn't say that's one of my strengths. You have to find
No,
different
we don't
ways,
see you doing that much. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe angles of first touch, knowing, what to do before you get the ball, things like that, trusting your ability to bend the ball with a lot of spin. These are just different traits that I've worked on over a long period of time that I'm glad I can bring to life and make you and the rest of the lads happy.
Yeah. Do you spend a lot of time set piece practice, like outside of normal training, with corners, free kicks?
Not really. We practice them once a week with the team.
Yeah.
But I did when I was, before. I think I always tried to at least once a week for 15 to 30 minutes to work on those static deliveries. Nowadays, I haven't done it actually much this year. There's so much other stuff that we're working on that I'm struggling to find the time for it, to be honest. But I think also as you get a little bit older, you realize that you have the capability and it's just about executing it consistently. And doing that is almost more mentally than anything else, making sure you do the right process before you step up to the ball, keeping your thoughts in a calm headspace, being clear about what you're going to do. So I'd say really that's been the difference in terms of understanding the mental process to go through before doing that, to keep it as consistent as possible.
Nice. All right. And so, I mean, back to Auckland FC, we're in a fantastic position, of course. Had a run of draws. I think there's 6 games to go, 4 of those over in Australia. I mean, could any of you have imagined you would be in this position with 6 games to go right at the start?
It's a good question. The intention was set at the very beginning of the season to show up and be a winning team. I think all the players are definitely players that have won things in the past or have experience of how to win things, exemplified by Hiroki. You don't need to look any further than that. I think I'm maybe not the best person to ask this question because I'd never played in the A-League before. So I really didn't know what to expect. But obviously now that we're here, this is what we're focusing on and pretty stoked with how it's gone so far.
Yeah, and I'm not going to ask for any predictions because you're a footballer, so you know what to say with the questions about whether you're going to win the A-League or not. But I mean, there must be a decent confidence in the group going forward to this final 6 games, and then touch wood into the playoffs. Yeah,
definitely. Confidence is definitely something you earn through the actions that you take, and I think the boys trust each other too, which builds even more confidence. And so, yeah, it's definitely narrowing the focus now into these last 6 games and continuing to try and execute the things that we've done well so far in the season.
Yeah. And Brisbane away this weekend. You guys travelling over tomorrow? Is that the plan?
Yes. So 2 days before, get a day of preparation there and then play. Yeah.
Nice. Well, good luck over there in Brisbane. And I just wanted to say thanks for coming on. And thanks to all the players really for just having a great season and just inspiring so many of us football fans to come and watch football again live. It's been a wonderful experience.
Oh mate, it's a pleasure to play in front of you. I think we touched upon it briefly here, but it's a privilege to have a stadium full of people. That's essentially who we play for. So thank you for coming and thank you for cheering and supporting, and I'm looking forward to hopefully providing some more good memories for you this season.
I'm sure you will. And before you go, your story is so inspiring. It's a journey of resilience. And talking to you now, I realize, the ups and downs and the just sort of keep carrying on mentality. Any advice for anyone out there who's experiencing challenges and disappointments in their career or their lives, and from a man who's kind of been up and down so much? What's your advice?
It's a great question. Actually, I run a small coaching business for young footballers that's kind of focused upon this. So I love that you touched upon the question. I would say first of all, understand that feeling of disappointment or hurt or pain or whatever you're experiencing, that won't last. It's temporary. So, but what will last is if you choose to stop persevering, and that will last. So that's step number one, recognizing that whatever's uncomfortable at the moment will not last, but it will help you get stronger if you take the right actions towards that end goal. And often it's a resetting of your goals and your expectations, and it's maybe simplifying them to fit with what situation you have. So if you had this big goal and to make a team, for example, and you didn't make the team and you're all disappointed, well, maybe it's refocusing on just your next game and the game after that, and picking yourself up piece by piece, and then finding those little nuggets in there that do make you feel good, shifting your perspective towards the things that you actually enjoy doing right now, because it can be very easy to get caught up in that, I didn't make
picture,
it. Yeah, exactly. So be present with what's in front of you right now. Maybe even get away from the thing that you thought was, like bringing you down. For example, when I was in Sweden, playing for this amateur team and quite hard on myself about where I was in my football career, that's where I really got into studying, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed reading about psychology and learning more, and that was my thing. But I'm sure everybody else has something too. Maybe it's music or doing a different kind of hobby, and that can really bring joy into your life, where it can essentially lift you up again in a different way.
Lovely. Yeah, it's not how you get knocked down, it's how you get up. That's what they say.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And you always can. It's many different ways to do it, but you can.
I love it. All right. Thank you very much, Francis De Vries, for joining us on Nystrom Report, and good luck for the rest of the season, mate.
All good, mate. Pleasure.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Some inspirational words there from Francis De Vries. Amazing. Free advice at the end there. I like that.
What a man.
A lot of people charge for that kind of advice, but it was awesome to see how he kind of lit up talking about that. Yeah. So you can kind of you see that's very much a passion of his. So he's got a career in doing those kind of motivational, that coaching kind of scene. That was awesome. Well done, mate. Well done. Great get.
Yeah, thank you. No, it was a great interview. Yeah, shifting the perspective to enjoy the things you're doing right now. It's like and I think so many of us actually get bogged down in the bigger picture. I mean, we even do it on the podcast. Are there any people watching or any people listening? Where's it all going? And it's like, if you actually just enjoy what you're doing, then life's a dream, right? And totally. Good things will come. That's kind of what he's saying. Yeah.
Totally. Like that's my approach with, like, commentary is something I really want to do as a career, and I don't see that as work, because I love doing it, and I want to be able to do it full time, basically, not have to worry about producing. But that's, find what you're passionate about, follow it, and who knows what's going to happen in the future. And Franny's awesome. Like, he's such an awesome character.
Yeah.
What about his attitude there with all those setbacks, Matthew?
The first thing I was going to say is, they always say never meet your heroes. Well, they've never had Francis.
So don't meet him, Matt. Just don't meet him.
Yeah, well, in Francis De Vries' case, you should meet them.
I think you should meet him.
Yeah, true.
It'd be very useful to hang out with Francis for a bit.
Just fantastic. I mean, it was really cool, because most of the questions that I'd asked, I was wondering how many you could get in, but you got in so many that wanted you to practice. So yeah, that was awesome. Yeah.
Very humble character.
Yeah,
he was.
Yeah.
We were just talking when he was talking there, just about I think he does himself a real disservice. I think, like, his crossing ability. You made a good point there, Dal, when you said that he was just trying to say that it was a small part of his game, and he does so much more. But it's such a great skill that he's got of crossing the ball consistently. I mean, I just say to anybody to go and watch a high-level football game and just watch some of the crossing that you often see from the left and from the right. It is just appalling. I mean, some of the the build-up of the free kick, and they mark it all out, and they spray the foam on the pit. They get them 10 yards, and just the amount of times it either hits the wall or it just gets blown over the back post. It gets blown over the byline. I mean, it almost happens so regularly now. People just go, "Oh yeah, the guy was obviously trying to do something." I just think it's a skill. It's an art that's
it's very much a forgotten art form. especially like the modern kind of football is, you play it wide and they cut back inside rather than going wide and crossing it in. But I've always thought if you can make something look easy, that's half the job done, really. And it's interesting to hear how much of a process it is for him, because when you watch him, it doesn't just happen. There's all these little things that kind of lead up to that, and whatever he uses to trigger that kind of process. But the fact that happens so quickly and he makes it look so natural, he makes it look so easy. Like to put it on a dime, when, like you say, Matt, most of the time it goes into the wall or it gets sprayed. But yeah, amazing.
I'm just surprised he said that it wasn't something he always. It just looks like it's something that he always did. It just seems like
it's only come in later in his career. Kind of, he was turned into a bit of a left back in Sweden in the later parts, and
find that
really, he got into the crossing.
So hard to,
also that he doesn't practice. I'm thinking he's out there every day practicing.
It's amazing.
We just do one session a week.
Just that, I don't think he'd ever say it, but I just think he's just got a natural ability to be able to cross, whip a ball. I tell you what, if you could get some of the defenders that have had to defend some of those crosses this season, they would all say the same thing, that he puts
and keepers.
And keepers. He puts the ball exactly where you don't want it.
It's consistent. It's consistent. Like you said, he consistently does the same thing says the same thing in his head every time.
Always.
He takes a corner, but it'll be the same as when he's crossing. He'll have the same process.
He's so efficient. So efficient.
Yeah, great.
Fantastic.
Some interesting bits from the story as well. The chocolate milk from his mum after qualifying for the World Cup's a good one.
That's a good one. My daughter has that after her football session.
Yeah.
So I must be I'm doing something right.
Yeah. Well,
how was she on set piece delivery, Matt?
Yeah, is she any good?
If only she had a left foot like Bruce. Unfortunately, I think she's right-footed, so she's not that fantastic left. But she likes kicking and tackling people. Who would have thought?
Redhead. There's a defender there. There's a young defender.
Trouble on the pitch.
Yeah, that's right.
Interesting. Talking about the youth setup in Switzerland as well, about how good they were, the difference that he realized when he went over, because there's a setup there that's getting them in really early training to play at a high level. They're playing to win. New Zealand youth football can be a little bit different from a very early age. It's sort of more of a participation thing. Where's my question coming? It's like, is this money we might get from the World Cup, might that be put into building up a youth setup here?
I think it should. Yeah, I don't know about over in Australia. I try and reflect on the English model. They knew in the 2000s that the England players just weren't good enough to compete in European competition. I mean, you also probably know more. The amount of guys that used to go and play in Europe was so small, wasn't it? It was the best of the best. Like Gaza went over.
In England, not many players played in Europe in those days.
So good, where there is so many England players now that are going over to Europe, and I think that is because they have that technical ability, and it's because of the investment they made. I think it was just George's Park. So New Zealand has really got to look at something like that. I think they need to establish some kind of central location, a centre of excellence, for use of a better term or something, and that's where everybody goes and they learn. They might have to bring people in. They might have to bring in people from Europe or whatever, with the skills, but maybe come up with a brand. I think England were adamant that they still wanted to play a particular way, like an England way or an English way. That's maybe something New Zealand needs to do as well. What are we about? What do we do? What are we good at? We need to be.
Well, also New Zealand can now say, well, what do we want to do in 3 World Cups time?
And that's how you look.
Because there's going to be more guarantees of the national team getting there. So
that's right.
There's going to be money, but it's really interesting to hear his experiences going over there, the difference in quality.
You can that's right. Yeah.
Off the bat.
I know what you think, Robbie. Yeah. I think it's easy.
Yeah, agree. Look, football's always been such a big, had such large numbers participation-wise at the junior levels. That needs to translate somehow. I think it's how they kind of foster that. New Zealand's always going to be hamstrung by location, and I think with Europe, because it's more football centric. Yeah. But the fact that there's more countries clearly within Europe, there's going to be a higher concentration of those talented young footballers. So that competition is always going to be more difficult. Whereas with New Zealand, you're in the Oceania region, and that's already very well spaced out. So not having that kind of immediacy of, I guess, of equal caliber talent to play against, to train with, etc., when it's really only Australia. But that doesn't mean that they just have to be creative with how they do it. But they certainly need to invest in the future at youth levels for sure, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, I could go back to England though. England is absolutely football mad, of course it is, and it's where it started. But England players in the 2000s, the young kids that were coming through, just weren't good enough. When they were being promoted and they were coming through, they just weren't. They tried all these things where you have to have a certain amount of English players at certain divisions and things like that. But there was pushback on that because they just weren't good enough. People just were like, I can get a better player from France. I can get a better player from Germany or from Switzerland.
Whereas now the likes of Jude Bellingham goes over to
now.
Europe and smashes it.
Your Bellingham's, your Cobb, your
barely
Fodens.
played in England.
Yeah, they're all
Trent's gone to Madrid now, isn't he? Apparently.
Yeah,
on the verge, isn't it?
But they're all products of the system. They've all been taught a particular way from the start.
Yeah.
Even
old Harry Kane goes over there and just does not stop scoring goals.
No,
it
doesn't matter where he plays.
Yeah.
Incredible.
But there's talent in New Zealand. There's
100%, and I think that's why we're coming. Yeah, sorry, man. That's why we're coming into this really good period for New Zealand football. I think just because when you look at the teams that this current squad are from, Empoli, England, Sweden, Denmark. It's such a wide variety now. So I think we're going to see the green shoots from that are going to have a massive impact in the next sort of generation of New Zealand football. It's really, really exciting time ahead.
Yeah, it's come good. Yeah, it feels like a perfect storm or whatever. But not in a bad way. Good. Everything's coming together.
Yeah, well, football's on the up. We've qualified for the World Cup, and Auckland FC are still top of the A League, 4 points clear, still 4 clear. West game in hand over Western. Correct.
They've got the bye this week, so yes.
It's all kind of coming.
I see. Right. And we've got Brisbane away, Brisbane Roar. Seems like a long time ago we talked about Brisbane Roar. First game of the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And
a lot's changed.
A lot's changed. And like I said, I was invited onto the Brisbane Roar, the Brisbane Football Review podcast, and lots of interest in Auckland FC over in Australia. It seems, like they're just the pictures they're seeing on the TV of a full stadium with fans singing and shouting. It's I think it's really invigorated the A League. When I talk to other Aussie football fans. So here we are again, Brisbane Roar. And I was asked for my prediction, and I think that we will actually get a win this weekend, because I think we've done three draws on the bounce. I think they'll be pumped up. Bit of a break.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think the break came at a good time for Auckland. I think the Auckland contingent coming back in will be clearly on a high. Probably didn't hurt necessarily that, the likes of AP, Nando, Tommy Smith didn't get all that much game time.
Pretty fresh,
so they'll
still
be fresh.
Yep.
But they've been training in the national team environment, so they'll still be sharp. I think the break was good. Will be good for Auckland, and I said it last week. I just want to see them be dominant, be convincing. Whether that means 5 or 6 goals, I don't really care about that. I just want a commanding performance just to give that boost of confidence.
What does that look like? What does that look like, Robbie? Is that possession, more? It's
control. It's the game management. That's what has been lacking over the course of the last 3 draws.
Yeah.
The control of the game hasn't been there for large parts. There've been maybe 5-10 minutes here or there, but then it flips. The momentum goes the other way. I want Auckland to be able to control the game for long periods and then finish chances, basically. Whatever chances they create, finish.
Yeah, I think Robbie's bang on. Yeah, I think that control has somehow slipped away a little bit. I think some of the performances in those draws have actually been quite pretty good with some of the stuff, but there's just moments in the game where they didn't used to do that. Like you look at that good run they went on. They just didn't give people a sniff, did they? They just did not let them in. They just saw the game out.
Does Verstrata come back?
Yeah,
Start?
I think he's got to be pretty close.
I think so.
I've got the lineup here from the last game, and just looking at it, I think I'd have him back in. Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
The interesting one for me is what they do now that Dan Hall's back to full fitness, and where Tommy Smith kind of fits into that.
Yeah.
Back to the bench.
That's the big one for me.
Imagine.
I think he's probably back.
Would he be back on the bench as cover?
I mean, I think Hall will be quite appreciative of that extra week or so he's had as well with the. So he represents.
It's Australian, isn't he?
No, he's Fiji, isn't he? He's one of the islands.
Plays for Australia though, doesn't he?
No, he's not capped by Australia, so he's eligible for Fiji and Australia, but he hasn't been. I think he's maybe been in like training setups, but not capped at any level for Australia.
Never got a game.
Not capped, senior level for Australia.
Senior level, yeah.
So he's not eligible for He's not eligible for New Zealand.
No, he's lived in Australia and Fiji.
Australia.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I guess if he played,
maybe.
This year here for a while. He'll probably going to be here for a while.
Yeah.
I've no idea.
That's an interesting one. But yeah,
Good
I think
question.
he'll appreciate that because obviously he's just come back from a pretty decent injury, hasn't he? So, but yeah, I mean, I thought he looked pretty good after being out for so long. So yeah, I think him and him and Heineker. Yeah, I think Smith will have to drop to the bench. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so. So Brisbane Roar, 6 games to go. I was right in that, and 4 of them over in Australia. So, like we said on, I think, the last couple of shows, got a fairly difficult run. Western Sydney at home the week after Brisbane, Sydney FC away, Victory away, and then Western away. Yeah,
Western away in round 29, last game of the season.
Oh, there's a Perth home game in there somewhere.
Yes.
Oh yeah, don't forget that one.
Yeah. Stan Lira's
can't forget that one, Matt.
The Stan Lazaridis.
The picture's in with Perth glory.
Yeah.
Gotta hassle them, Matthew. Hassle them. Let them know.
I've got.
We need Stan on.
Hopefully, I've got someone in the inside.
Yeah.
I can't say who. I can't disclose who he is. His initials are RF.
Yeah.
He
may be on the podcast right now.
Yeah, he's doing some serious legwork for me. Yeah. And he brings results. That's what we want.
I tell you what, we haven't done this week so far is Matt on the socials.
Man
We've got no. What's going on? Is it?
Shall I just keep it easy?
Just give us a brief summary. Well, what I've done is basically now I don't have to look at these socials. I've outsourced this role to Matthew.
You've trusted.
I feel so much lighter.
Yeah. Well, I can see why you've outsourced it because it's a dark world. Give
us the highlights / lowlights.
Lowlights. Yeah. Quick shout out to Steve. It was Steve Corica's birthday.
Is it?
It was. Almost the same as you on the 24th of March.
Oh, another Aries.
Another Aries.
Yeah, dominant star sign.
I don't know exactly how old he is. 40?
40?
No, he's a
scored in the first grand final of the A-League.
You might be listening.
45.
That's got to get me some brownie.
He's 45.
He's early 40s. What else was there really? Yeah, a quick one. Someone managed to sell a Saki Hiroki authentic jersey card, like a collectible, like a baseball card.
A baseball card
that you can collect. Ooh. So someone
like a rookie card.
Yeah, so someone had purchased that from Japan. I think when the 2015-16 Japanese national card. If the person is listening to this, I'd love to know how much that went for.
What did he buy it for?
Yeah, or no, he was selling it.
He was selling it.
So I don't know how much he sold it for. I don't know, maybe a guess there. How much a Sakai Hiroki?
I feel like we're going quite international, with the guy on last week, flags, scarves in China.
There's a lot. I think there's a lot of avenues.
It's cold in China at the moment, probably.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. Yeah, but the big one, I think, and I'll throw it out there. Now you've obviously been a bit of a heads up, but yeah, if you could add one all-white player to the AFC team, who would it be? That got, I would probably say, the good vast majority of comments this week.
That was a great question. Yeah.
Whoever put that out there on the AFC Facebook page, shout out because that's a good question.
One all whites players. It'd be Chris Wood, wouldn't it?
Oh no! And this is why the guy
I can't have Chris Wood.
This was like
Wood aside.
Wood aside.
Oh, Wood aside.
Yeah.
I thought about it.
I love the young lad that's coming through Forest playing for Reading.
Yeah.
Tyler Bindon. Yeah, he would have been my answer as well. There's a lot of good buzz about him. I reckon he could be something special.
Yeah, they reckon he's going to be really good.
I've tried to pick somebody that I think, because I think Auckland FC. I've tried to pick a player that I think, where could AFC strengthen? And I think the back four is really good. I mean, yeah, Binden's a quality player.
Probably don't need him.
Clearly, I think I'd probably go with. I think it's got to be Benjamin Old, for what I saw when he played for the Phoenix.
Right.
He plays at Saint Etienne.
Saint Etienne now.
Saint Etienne, yeah.
Yes, recovering from injury, but he's Saint Etienne like what they see with him.
He was super impressive from what I saw from last season, so I think he would. I think he'd easily slot in there. I don't think he's a forward. He's more like a kind of a hustle
winger,
attacking mid. Yeah, kind of. Just kind of bustles his way straight through. Really, doesn't really think about it. Just goes straight through, doesn't he? So
he's a very good player.
Barbarousa's got a lot of. I tell you what, the two that seemed to get a lot of attention was Barbarousa's and Elijah Just. They were the two that seemed to get the most. They got the most.
Yeah, I was also thinking along the same lines as you. Where can Auckland strengthen? And this has been my thing over the past couple of months. Is who's that player that commanding presence that I think we don't necessarily have? It's spread out amongst a group of players, but I would love one dominant player presence. I wouldn't mind to see Alex Rufer.
Rufus down there, not Rufus, says Auckland.
Yeah. I knew it.
Can you see?
It's just personal preference. I just love his character, and it'd never happen as a Wellington captain. I'm sorry, Auckland FC. I'm sorry.
He's a great age as well. Actually, I've just seen I was surprised he's 28 years old. Yeah. It's like such a good age for centre mid.
I love his uncle. Was it his uncle or his dad or his granddad? I can't remember. Winton. What's the relation?
Winton, uncle. Yeah.
Uncle. Yeah. I love his uncle Winton.
Yeah. No, I will say I would love to see Alex Rufer test himself overseas somewhere at a decent level. Like I just think he's ready to take that next step. He's a quality player. He is one of my favorite A-League players. I'll be honest.
Yeah. Well, let's hope he's buzzing in form for the World Cup in 15 months. Yeah. Nice.
He's a winner.
Cool. All right. Thanks, gents. Lovely to have you along. Matthew, lovely to have you here.
Yeah.
You actually didn't know where my house was.
No, I was kind of.
You'd never believe this, would you? We've been friends 18 years. And you don't even know where I live.
It's pitch black out there. And I'm standing there.
I did
move.
He got lost.
Am I in the right place? Am I going to knock on the door? Yeah. And that could be the last thing I ever do.
Well,
who's going to answer the door?
It is West Auckland, so you never know.
I used to live out here, but I don't think that would stand me in good stead. Anyway.
You're too soft now.
Yeah, too soft.
Good stuff.
Soft.
Good stuff. All right, guys. All right, Rob. Cheers for zooming in again from Sydney, and and we really enjoyed speaking to Francis earlier and listening and divesting what he'd said. And we're all gonna be, I guess, watching on the TV. Brisbane Robbie about 7 o'clock over here.
Yeah,
Saturday game.
Sunday afternoon.
Yeah,
last game of the round.
How good's that though? We're in a place now where it gets to the end of the week and we've got a game of footy.
We'd be wide awake watching football. It's incredible.
So good.
It's incredible.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Absolutely. It's a game I'll be producing that one as well. And just this weekend, all the games have a bearing on the top six. So Saturday especially is going to be a bit of a moving day. Wanderers away to Wellington, Sydney play Melbourne City, and Adelaide play Melbourne Victory. So a lot of it's going to change come this time next week.
Games. Nice one. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening and watching wherever you are, and give us a subscribe, give us a like, tell your mates, and enjoy the game this weekend. Up the ports.
Up the port.
Get in. There we go.